Hi, I'm Alaska, and I'm here to tell you about the book Stepping on the Cracks by Mary Downing Hahn. Stepping on the Cracks is centered around a girl named Margaret and her best friend named Elizabeth. They have two main things in common. One, they each have a brother in the war, and two, they both hate the local bully, Gordy Smith. The only person they hate more than Gordy is Adolf Hitler. He's broken their families apart and he's taken their brothers away. In school, they have a very strict teacher, but Gordy does the worst thing. He's always mean to them, and he even ripped down their treehouse. So, they decide to get him back. Gordy and his goons, Doug and Toad, have a little hut in the woods. They decide to trash it. Margaret and Elizabeth go up to the hut, but they see Gordy around the fire with his friends. So, they sneak into the hut and they trash it. Gordy, however, hears them, and they have to run away. Their mothers have forbidden them to go anywhere close to the woods, and they have broken so many rules just by trashing that hut. How are they going to get out of it? Well, first of all, they don't tell their mothers, and second of all, make sure that Gordy keeps quiet. Gordy tells them a crazy story about a crazy man living in the hut, and how he disturbed them, but they know it's not true. They go to the hut a second time, and they do see a man there, a man with a beard and raggedy clothes. They run away screaming, but Margaret and Elizabeth don't know that it's Gordy's older brother, Stuart. Stuart deserted the war, and in World War II, you don't desert the war. Stuart believed war was wrong, and he took a stand. However, that was not appreciated. When Margaret and Elizabeth found out, they held it over Gordy's head until they finally met Stuart, and they realized that he was sick and tired and had really good ideas. He even read them a poem about a guy who was forced to kill his best friend in the war, when he'd rather just have a drink with him. It's very sad how Stuart was almost prosecuted because of what he did. But Stuart was getting very sick, and winter was coming. Soon, Stuart was so sick they couldn't keep him in the woods anymore. They had to show him to their friend Barbara, who has a big heart and a dead husband, Butch, who died in the war. She takes Stuart in and takes him to the doctor as her brother. The doctor prescribes antibiotics and a trip to the hospital. The hospital's too smart, they all realize. They'll know that Stuart's not really my brother, says Barbara. So, Barbara is forced to tell her parents, and they accept Stuart as one of their own. She didn't tell him he was a deserter, however. Meanwhile, Jimmy, Margaret's brother, and Joe, Elizabeth's brother, are still in the war, and that stress, coupled with the secret of a deserter, that's almost too much for Margaret and Elizabeth. They realize that Gordy isn't as bad as they thought he was, and he really has an abusive father. It's sad how these two girls didn't really realize about this terrible life. Anyway, Stuart was getting sicker and sicker. Was he going to survive? They eventually did take him to the hospital, and Stuart recovered very quickly. He called Elizabeth his little war angel, which means she took care of him in bad times. But with some great news comes some bad news. Margaret's brother, Jimmy, died in the war. She cried for 3 weeks. She could barely even bear to look at Stuart, thinking about how she would rather him die than Jimmy. Her brother, Jimmy, loving, cartoonish, funny, gone. That was one of the saddest parts in the book. It almost made me cry. But no matter what happens, Elizabeth will always be Margaret's, and Margaret always Elizabeth's solace in the midst of war and battle. This is a sad story, and it's a happy story. Gordy got his brother not to go in the war, his abusive father left, and Barbara was proposed to by Stuart. It was eventually a happy ending, but it was bittersweet. I thought this was one of the best books I've ever read, and Mary Downing Hahn has so many captivating books. I can't wait to read some more. This is Alaska, signing out.